Our splenic projector.
Yes.
And I have a defined spleen. But I started thinking about, well, it can be a little, the spleen center and the splenic authority can be a little challenging to kind of suss out what that means. And I also thought we could talk about that, and also about if you have a defined spleener.
Got that spleener.
Got that spleener going. Human design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, human design specialist.
And I'm Haley, the human design newbie. Listen in as we explore how leaning into your authentic self is your ultimate path to success. Welcome to the Human Design Hive podcast. Let's get into it.
Hello, Haley. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me from all the way out in Colorado?
Yes, it does still work the same.
Yes, we are coming to you now from different parts of the country. Used to be just the different parts of the state, but now we are, sadly for me, far away. But I'm quite proud of us, because we Haley and I and her father and her husband,
not just us,
and the dog, had a adventure in the last week and a half, and still managed to get podcast episodes out. I'm very proud of myself.
Yeah, we did plan ahead and get them recorded, so that was a big help. For sure.
We did. We planned ahead.
Okay, you. Sorry.
Great co-host, not so much on the other stuff, but you do show up. But anyways,
I am here.
Yeah, so Colorado Springs. So shout out, yes. Colorado Springs, anybody that's out there listening. Yes. You never know. You never know.
You don't. We could have a person, have a people.
Yeah, because they, you can look at your podcast statistics and it'll tell you, oh, it's people are listening from this area, but I don't really trust it that much. But what I really hate is now it's late afternoon and it's early. Well, it's mid-afternoon for you. It's only 2 hours difference, but we took a 3-day. Well, I would say it's pretty much a 3-day adventure getting out there.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, because it was 1,700 miles.
So much.
1,735, actually, if you look on Google, that says how far apart we are.
Yeah, but we traveled more than that because we didn't take, I don't feel like we took the most direct route by any means.
I think we did all right. We left here, Myrtle Beach, and went to Louisville, Kentucky, which, I would say that it still says that this is like the sort of fastest route is going up that direction. But even that but that was a beautiful drive that day going through that
was the best of the 3 days. That was the best one. And I don't know if it was just because it was the first one. It was the first day, but it was definitely the prettiest drive.
No, it was because it was going up through the Blue Ridge Mountains, which I have driven through many times in my lifetime, because my dad's parents lived in Richlands, Virginia, and we lived in Ohio. So I spent a lot of time there, and I would have to say it was never really my favorite, probably just because of, it would just seem like wasn't a lot to do as a kid because my grandparents didn't want to do much. But I appreciate it way more as an adult, especially as you're driving up. So we drove through your old stomping, well, sort of neck of the woods towards, because we didn't go to Greenville, but we went to We kind of skirted by there, didn't we?
I think we went more towards
Spartanburg. Yeah,
Spartanburg.
we didn't go to Greenville. We didn't turn off. Remember, we didn't turn off on that one
Right, yep.
interstate that
And
used to
I was
go to.
like, if you went that way, you'd go to our house.
That's right. And so we went through Asheville, North Carolina. If anybody in Asheville out there, it's a beautiful part of the Carolinas there.
Mhm.
Skirted on up to Louisville, which wow, those going past all those horse farms and everything,
Those
that
were
was
so
good.
pretty. It was so like lush and rolling, and then all of the like the
Idyllic.
big barns. Yeah,
I know the big barns. You're like, wow, they
that was
really look
so
like
cool.
that. It's a horse
I
ranch,
know.
and I just love to imagine because then I've put it all together. I was like, oh yeah, this is where the Kentucky Derby is. It's in Louisville.
There it is.
Um, there it is. You know, it's like it actually looks like that. And we were on the interstate. Can you imagine what it looks
Mm-hmm.
like on some smaller roads and everything? And then we spent that first night in the wonderful Loft Hotel there in Louisville,
A
Kentucky.
loft. A loft.
A
Yeah.
loft hotel, which is
Yeah. It was
pet
nice.
friendly, dog friendly.
Yes. Yes, it was. It was
Yeah.
nice.
And then second day we drove through Missouri, went by the Big Arch, St.
Yep.
Louis.
We saw it.
Shout
Mm-hmm.
out. I've been there a lot too as a kid. My aunt, I don't say, well, I can say my favorite aunt. I don't think anybody else will be listening. And my poor aunt, she's recently passed away, but lived in St. Louis. So spent a lot of time in Missouri also growing up. Been up to the top many times, but we just
Mm-hmm.
passed by this time. And
Yep.
on our way to Wichita.
Yeah. Was it on the second day? It had to have been the second day when we drove through Indiana and Illinois, right? And it was so flooded.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was. It was Illinois. It was. Did we?
I think
I
it was
guess.
both. I think we went through both. Like, thinking we had a snippet in Indiana because remember immediately in our trip the time changed at the McDonald's.
Let me just tell you, Haley has this thing. She will know she's wrong, and in the moment, she does not want to admit it. So she will gaslight you.
It's really bad.
She's turning very red right now. No, we did get up that morning in Louisville, and we got up on the. Was it
Like,
the first?
it was because
Yes,
I knew the
yes.
time changed on the second and third day. I just didn't know where.
That's right. And we got up early. We were on the road by like 6:30, I think.
Yeah.
And we stopped for breakfast after a little while at a McDonald's somewhere in Illinois or something. And said, and I looked at my watch and it said it was 7 o'clock. And I was like, why is it saying 7 o'clock? I
You're
said,
like, my watch is wrong.
Haley's like, no, it's 7 o'clock. I was like, no, we've been driving for like an hour and a half. She's like, no. It's like, did the time change? She's like, eh. And then finally she had to admit that, yeah, I was right. The time changed.
And I
had to
immediately
look
looked it up and
well, I'm surprised my watch hadn't changed because the Apple Watch, I would have thought it had. Well, it's duh. I'm so stupid. It did change.
Your brain just wasn't on with it.
It was that first cup of coffee, so I don't know what my excuse is right now. So we did do that, and then we stopped in Wichita at another Aloft.
Another
hotel,
Aloft, yes.
which Aloft. If you'd like us to, if you'd like us to travel any of your other hotels, if you know someone, we would be happy to do that.
Very. Also, it was also pet friendly. Obviously, they had a little signboard when you walked in, and it said I think it said VIP guest or whatever, and they had Bailey's little name on it.
Oh my gosh,
so
she's just a star wherever she goes. Did they have it before you showed up?
I think so. I don't know. Yeah, because I think I noticed when we were walking out to go get food.
Mm-hmm. And you assumed it was your dog. There could have been another name. We did find it's the most common name for dogs.
There was several dog names on there, so maybe they just throw normal ones.
Which please, if you're listening and your dog's name is Bailey, please let me know. I would love to know because we've heard it's the most common name for a dog. You can email me, DM me on Instagram. Hey, my dog's name is Bailey. That'd be great. We could have like the human design Bailey dogs. They could have their own little club.
Oh
um,
man.
and you had that giant plate of nachos.
Oh my God.
When
This
they
was a literal mountain of nachos.
in Kansas, there was this hotel, or the hotel we were at, there was a brand new place next door, which was great because it was literally we could just walk over there, so we didn't have to leave
Yep.
the dog for too long. And it was very good food. Wish I could
Hmm.
remember the name of it, but I can't. And yeah, that
Rail
was
hopper.
that
Rail
remind
hopper.
Rail Hopper. There you go, Wichita. And it reminded me of like what they call, I guess, a jelly roll pan, which is really the
Yeah.
flat sheet pan that has a
Hmm.
rim around it. That thing was a good 12 by, I don't know, 12 by 6. It was huge.
Probably. It was massive.
And
And
then Presley got mad at you
it
because she
was
didn't
like
eat all your
piled like this
food.
high. Yeah, I'm sorry. It was piled like this high, and half of that was just chip.
Yeah. At the end of the week, he's like, we didn't finish our food a lot of time. And I was like, what do you mean? I think we finished our dinner because we ate out like every single day. Because, hey, what else are we gonna do? But also, too, you didn't have your
I'm not
kitchen
gonna
set
make
up yet.
food.
No, we all cook. You and I cook all the time.
Yeah,
I've cooked ever since I got back.
I for the most part have since you left.
Yeah, I like cooking, but man, hitting the road, and then
You
the
gotta try
sort of,
new places.
and then I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I'm pretty sure that probably there's not many people from Kansas listening, so I hope not to offend anyone. But my God, that's third day driving. That's the second time
that
I've driven through Kansas, and I don't ever want to do it again.
that was the worst day.
Yeah, it's just never ending, and it's kind of
And
scary. It's like the reverse of claustrophobia, like everything's closing in on you. Like sometimes out in that, because we're on that one road for so long, these smaller roads, it almost gets the reverse. It's like, oh my God, there's so much just flat open space
nothing.
around me and nobody and nothing, maybe a
Yeah.
boarded up town
Or cow.
or a
You
cow
can
or a
see a
grain
cow.
silo. And you're
Yeah,
like,
that was
please God, let us get through Kansas without any.
we I don't think we should have taken the back road.
It was fun though. I mean, you don't get to see that, you've seen it now, you never have to see it again.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel for the people. They probably don't feel that way that I do, but of, whenever I get out in the world and you see it's like so remote, you're just like, what do they do? Obviously this is farmland but there's
But even
looks like
those little tiny towns that we would drive through, like
yeah,
some of
there's
them
nothing
didn't even
there.
have a stoplight.
Yeah, and it just was kind of sad a lot of times because it just seemed like, how much longer before this is just like completely abandoned, because there's just
Yeah.
there was nothing else going on besides the farmland, and there seemed to be a drought and there was some cattle, but it was just it is the Great Plains of Kansas,
Oh,
which
show.
I'm sure at one point was a lot more productive than it is now, which I don't know. But then wild, wonderful Colorado. There we
That
are.
didn't have the sign.
I know.
When we crossed the state border, there was like the wood frame where a sign should have been, but it wasn't there.
They're like, no, we got to move this one. Nobody is on this road. We're going to move it over to the interstate where people actually see it and not wait for the 4 people that cross yearly. So true. But
Yeah.
and then we were sending pictures to my niece Lakeland cousin here back home of like, we are 80 miles away from these mountains and you can see them, like they're just incredible. And she's
And
like,
you took like one picture in Kansas in the morning and then one in the
oh my
afternoon, and they
God,
looked
I
exactly the
know, I
same.
did. I said I did live time here sending photos from Kansas, looked exactly the same, just straight road. Whew,
Yeah.
that was a trip, but it was fun. Afterwards, I was like, when you're in it, it seemed like it was really a long time, but really, I mean, it was a pretty easy trip. We are very good travel companions. We travel
Where?
very well together. We listen to great podcasts, not so great podcasts,
Mhm.
some great podcasts.
What was the
Um,
last one we were listening? Well, the dollop, but what was the other one that we listened to a lot?
the well, you also love the beach too
Oh,
sandy, water too wet. We listened to a
yeah.
couple of those.
hmm
We
The
listened to it was not
the
like stereo, CBC.
CBC. What was
Um,
it?
uh,
Un
oh, about the satanic
Satanic. Oh, let me
ritual
find
rituals,
abuse.
satanic ritual
Uncover.
abuse of children.
Uncover is the name of the podcast.
Uncover podcast, CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Company, because we listened to one before
That was about
about
the
what was that one before? The lady. There was a couple of them. We listened to a couple of them.
No, we didn't listen to the lady one. It was the cop. Was it the cop one or the one before? The one that
They
was
were so descriptive. The lady one.
the one that was really drawn out. Let me just look at the ones that are
But if you
for
happen
everyone that
to
cares.
be someone sort of my age, it was talking about how in the 80s, in the mid to late 80s, there was this like craze. It's almost like the Salem witch trials about everybody
Mm-hmm.
worried about these satanic cult people stealing children and doing things
I
to them.
remember.
And there was this massive kind of outbreak of it. Suddenly everybody's like, oh, my child has been abused by these Satanists. And it was
We believe
this
the children.
bizarre, yeah, but always believing the children, because before that children weren't really paid attention to if they said things. And then there was this campaign about believing children, which is good, it's good, but it
Mm-hmm.
got to this point that it was bizarre to see how the mass
Yeah.
hysteria and
Mm-hmm.
and it was, there was another one we listened to too, I can't
We
remember
listened to
now.
the white supremacy one. That was the other season of Uncover we listened to, where
Oh.
he went undercover. The reporter went undercover of
Oh,
the what was it called
yeah.
the base. Was that what is
The
that what the
base.
organization was
It
called?
was in Canada too. It was like,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. So
For our podcast reviews, we'll be starting another
yeah,
series.
yeah, we're gonna, hey, we can do it. We can do it. Um, the best travel podcast to listen to. Like, not a travel podcast, the best podcast to listen to while traveling.
While traveling.
Yeah. So people were like, when are you gonna get to today's topic? Well, we will get there. We will
We
get
haven't even
there.
gotten to when we got to Colorado.
Yeah, we did. And then your dad saw that crazy man's outpost outside of
Oh
Colorado
God.
Springs that, God, I can't remember his name now. Dragon Man.
Dragon Man.
Some
Yeah.
really
The road
bizarre
we were driving in on, you just see these mannequins in fatigues and then like a tank or
holding
two, and
guns.
it just says, yeah, it just says Dragon Man. And we're at dinner the first night, and you're like, did you guys see that thing? And neither one of them saw it. Presley
Hmm.
or Daddy saw it. And then we said it was Dragon Man, and Daddy's like, oh, Dragon Man. He's like, I know him.
I know. Well, yeah, he's seen him on YouTube. This guy's nuts. He's got all this stuff. And I'm like, yep, it was there. And then he
Yeah.
decided he didn't want to go when he saw real pictures of it, because he's like, when he looked at his videos, all his stuff inside was covered in plastic for some reason. And then
Yeah,
he's
like
like,
I think more of the like cloth items were covered in
yeah.
plastic.
He's like, well, I don't want to go if it's all covered in cloth. But the scariest thing was the guy did rentals of guns, which is,
Mhm.
I don't believe, a good idea. But, you know, it's one thing that Colorado and South Carolina have in common. They like their guns. But I will
Yeah.
say, once we got everything settled and we spent a lot of time just kind of waiting around for things to show up so that you could move into
Mm-hmm.
your apartment. But really a beautiful, great area. Before we got on the recording today, Haley was showing me some pictures because it was thankfully the weather was nice and clear while we were there. It was a little cold, but then it warmed up. But then she got all
Yeah,
this
it was
snow
nice.
this week,
Yeah.
and it's just, and
I'm staring at the mountains right now.
you were sitting pretty. And so this is a good segue, in a way, to today's topic, because as I told you earlier, I kind of just don't always know what I'm going to talk about. And then I just kind of set the date to record, and let's record, and hopefully something comes in, and it did. And I said, I wanted to talk about the Splenic Authority particularly because I know we've talked about the spleen center, and
Mhm.
but I thought, well, I believe we've done an episode on emotional authority and splenic authority, which is yours, right?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
are a splenic projector,
Yeah.
and I have a defined spleen. But I started thinking about, well, it can be a little, the spleen center and the splenic authority can be a little challenging to kind of suss out what that means. And I also thought we could talk about that and also about if you have a defined spleener.
Got that splainer.
Got that spleener going. Um, that if you have other authority, because there isn't a hierarchy of authority, like I have a splenic
Yep.
authority, it's just not my strongest authority
Nope, it's
because
it's down there because of your
it's number
sacral
three.
authority.
My emotional authority first,
Oh,
then sacral,
yeah.
then I mean they all, and it's a soup sometimes to figure it out what's happening. So I thought we'd
Soup.
kind of dig into that, and I said it's a good segue because just how you've been feeling about this move, because I was listening to our last podcast when I was editing it, and you said, yeah, I've never really had a big freak out moment about
Yeah.
moving, right? So that's a good sign.
Even when we were on the trek out there, I think
Hmm.
second day we were driving, and the
Yeah.
apartment calls us and says, "Yeah, your apartment won't be ready." I was
Yeah.
like, oh, "Okay,
Again. Well, before that, they already moved you around a couple times
yeah,
because it's a brand new building, obviously.
yes, hmm
Yeah, and they gone
hmm
from this one won't be ready to this was before we left to we're
right."
going to move you into another one that'll be ready, and then that one
Had a
um,
leak,
had a leak, water damage. So they're like,
so they moved us back to the first original apartment, and then
and they
on the way
said it
out,
will be ready. We promise. We'll do a walkthrough, and then
because I said, "We are coming from South Carolina. It's not an easy thing."
yeah, they called Friday afternoon. Like, they're very nice though.
Very nice, very nice. They had a suggestion, a plan, and ended up we went because we were gonna go for a fourth floor apartment, but we wanted to get into a unit, so we went for a third floor. But it's been great. Yeah,
Well,
they're
it's
very, very
perfect
nice.
because now you got that view, and you would not have had the
Yeah.
view you have. Like I said,
No.
you can sit on her couch in her living room and watch the sunset over the Rocky Mountains, so the front range of the Rocky
Mhm.
Mountains. Is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's all meant to be, just following those
Yes.
instincts of that splenic center. So let's talk about it. So I know we've done an episode on the splenic center, which you can go back and listen, but because we did a series where we talked about all of them. I think we even
hmm
did one on the spheres of the spleen center, but just
We
to
did.
recap real quick, the splenic center is one of the awareness centers. It is not a motor. Okay, it's an
Right.
awareness center.
hmm
Uh, Care to dig into your human design knowledge and tell me what the other two awareness centers are?
Yes. It's
Okay.
the solar plexus, right?
Yes, ma'am. Emotional awareness.
And I don't know. I was gonna say the oh, what is that? That's the ajna,
Ajna.
right?
Yes.
I
The
get the head and the
ajna.
ajna, but
Mental
I wasn't.
awareness.
Yeah, but I wasn't. I don't know. That was there, but I wasn't sure. Obviously, by my answer.
Okay. Uh, yes, so it's an awareness center. The splenic awareness is this very um, primal awareness, let's say, and that's why there is all these fears associated with it, because it's basically the
hmm
center that has kept us alive as a species as we evolved before we had all of our mental capacities to reason and all that other stuff, right? We just acted on instinct,
hmm
which is, in a sense, that it's a body awareness because it is allowing the body to interact with the field and give us information about what's
hmm
happening or what's about to happen, really. And so when you have a splenic authority, that means that that center is going to be defined. And if it's your
hmm
primary authority, that means you do not have a solar plexus defined or sacral defined. So that means you are a projector or you are a manifester,
hmm
not a reflector because they don't have any of them defined, right?
Right.
Okay.
I got nada.
Yeah, so it's really to have splenic authority, you're going to be projector or manifester as your authority. Now, as I said, other types, generators and manifesting generators, can have also splenic definition, which gives them a type of splenic authority, but it's not the primary authority.
Right.
So I told you to try to remember or think about some decisions you had made in the past, but we'll probably get there in a minute. Let me think about where to
Okay.
go from here. So,
Okay.
so this splenic awareness, this authority, the reason it can kind of feel a little hard to get in touch with people is it's very subtle, it's quiet, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not really persistent in the sense that they say that it when the spleen speaks to you, it is
Mm-hmm.
it's in the moment, and it doesn't really
Right.
repeat itself. Does that have any kind of resonance to you? You're kind of like, yeah, because
I think so.
it's what I think is really interesting to say that the splenic center. Now, remember, we're talking about an energy center here. It's not the actual
Mm-hmm.
physical location of where the spleen is in the body, because
Right.
the splenic center, if you're looking at the body graph, is on the left. So if it would be on this side of the body, but it's from what I understand, the actual spleen is on the other side of the body. This is energetics, because actually the solar plexus and the splenic center in human design, they sit on opposite sides of the body graph, but that's because that was
Mm-hmm.
one of those energetic shifts that happened when we went from 7 centered beings to 9 centered beings. The solar plexus in the Hindu chakra system sits right there in the belly,
Mm-hmm.
and that split. So, anywho, so lost a train of thought.
Well, you were talking about not the energy center,
Mm-hmm.
not the specific spleen.
Right, the spleen. Um, Hang on,
Talking about
it'll come up.
the
The
subtlety
subtle,
of it, the subtle.
very
You were
true.
going into another way. It just explained, I think.
Oh, it's in the moment, right? Yeah. So this in the moment awareness, this instinct, is often linked with certain kind of like intuitive feeling, right? They say if you have definition in the spleen, that you are probably going to be a rather intuitive person. We're all intuitive, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
more consistent when your spleen is defined. And this is always the part where you want to have the disclaimer, especially when we're focusing on one specific center or gate or channel, to remember that we all have all of the chart, and it's the whole human experience, the human genome, however you want to look at it. And it just shows us all of what makes all of us up, what we're capable of. And it's just whether we experience it consistently or inconsistently in our designs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are defined there, obviously you're going to experience these themes more consistently. And they say with a defined spleen, it's tied to our immune system, because again, it's about survival, well-being, what keeps us healthy. And it's also physiologically tied to the lymphatic system. And so the lymph system, as you know or do not know, we have lymph fluid that is present in the whole body, and we have these lymph
Mm-hmm.
glands all the way around the body that helps regulate our immune system. It's what moves the immune cells through the body and helps keep us regulated in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting about the lymph system is the main lymph node or center, whatever you want to call it, physiologically in the body. It's not like the heart that pumps or the lungs that move. It's something that, or your intestines, how they can squeeze and they do all this stuff. Your
Mm-hmm.
stomach, the main lymph system has to be almost manually pumped. You got to prime the pump, really. And I learned this through yoga and some other stuff. That's why getting up in the morning, besides your intestines and all this other things that help, all the twisting and stuff and moving and bending, helps massage all your internal organs, but the lymph
Mm-hmm.
system as well. That and the dry brushing or rubbing the skin, the surface of the skin helps
Mm-hmm.
stimulate that lymphatic system as well. It
Hmm.
helps gets things moving. And so if you think about how the lymph system operates in the body, and like I said, if you're dry brushing, they say, I love dry brushing. It's so good. I always forget to do it, but it's good before, but it really helps. It's good for your immune system, for getting all this stuff moving in your body. Um, think about the spleen center, spleen awareness as basically your whole body having, it's like eyes all over your whole body in your environment. I know that sounds weird, but it
It's
is
really gross
literally
to think about. You just imagine it's really gross.
yeah, but it's like it's your actual physical body, especially since the lymph system and everything moves so close to the skin. It has this communication with its environment. It's so interesting. I've read books, listened to podcasts, people talking about how much awareness is in the body that is there even before the brain can process it, and that's what's happening with the spleen center awareness. Is that it's I wish I could. I'm doing this on the fly right now, so I can't remember where my references are, but about how this intuition and instinct, it really is at this body level of your physical body informing the brain, really, of knowing what's happening. We're talking, it's so fast, it can do it faster than the
I
eyes.
it's yeah, I mean it's like people that can like you see videos or hear people that like in an instant can like reach out and grab someone who's about to fall or
Mhm.
catch something that's like where your brain hasn't recognized what's happening, but next thing you know you're already like
Mhm.
making the movement and
Mhm.
doing that.
Yeah. And that's like say like your husband Presley, his design, he has, it's present his sun and earth. I can't remember all his incarnation gates, but they have the gate 57 and 53, 54 and 51. I can't remember what it's called. Penetration, I believe. But yeah, I think it's his design. No, yeah, his design sun is 57, which is incredibly intuitive. And but he likes to see himself as such a logical person, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to understand that logic and intuition, especially going through this spleen center, are very closely tied. And but he's I know he probably considers himself more of a, probably, I don't know if type A, if they still use that word anymore, but he keeps on task. He likes to be organized,
Mm-hmm.
and he's in finance. And where I bridge the gap with him about this sometimes is when I talked, because I know I talked about this with him before, about these traders on Wall Street that they studied about this awareness, how many of them just work on knowing when to trade and when to move. It is not a
Mm-hmm.
logical thing. They're often using their instincts. And it's like, it's so fascinating that it's really how they feel in their body. And this is splenic authority and splenic awareness, and that it's not the sacral, like sacral awareness, sacral response to me
Mm-hmm.
is very, I mean, it is a feeling, like an actual physical feeling almost. Whereas
Right.
splenic awareness is more kind of an overall awareness. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I don't know if you want to go into
Hmm.
any examples now or
Sure.
what, because I tried to think of some, but I couldn't think of any specifics. But I just
Hmm.
kind of was thinking back on like when I do make decisions, and I think for the most part, it is just like kind of just no, and it just like it does feel very subtle. It's just kind of like it it just feels like at peace or good or just like
Let me
right, and
ask you
it's like
this.
just weird.
Let me ask you this,
Not weird, but
because we'll go into how it can express depending on the circuitry that you have defined there. Would you say that it's a decision that sort of makes sense in the moment, or
um probably typically.
I don't want to lead the witness? Well,
um
kind of in the sense of like, well, this seems like the right thing to do.
I think so, even if I don't like think that in my head. I think I just kind of feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like for the most part, I don't make decisions and then be like, why the fuck did I do that?
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good.
Because my biggest difficulty was thinking of like, because you asked for decisions that I made that went how I wanted it, decisions that I made that didn't like have the outcome I wanted. And I was really struggling to think of decisions that I made that the outcome was not what I wanted.
Oh, all right. Interesting.
Because I was also trying to think of like, I don't feel like I've had like a lot of difficulties or like knock on wood here or things that I've had to like I made a decision on it and then it was like the wrong decision and things went bad or things didn't turn out right or things like that.
Okay, well, do you, because you, okay, so Haley's defined root to spleen, and then she's defined head and ajna.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you think about your decisions? Do you overthink them sometimes, or do you just straight like feel like you're running on instincts a lot?
When I overthink
Mm-hmm.
is probably when there is money involved because
Mm,
of the budget and I know that if it affects Presley more and then I'll overthink things like that. But I think
mm-hmm.
other decisions that aren't money related, I don't think I overthink them or really
Mm-hmm.
put like a ton of thinking into them.
Oh God, I envy you. That's all I do.
that
Think.
that I think I'm aware of.
Well, I think that also attributes, like I said, to that head definition that you have, but which I do not. So it's a little more variable there, and I'm really starting to pay attention to the whole like thinking about things that aren't important. That's not self behavior of that head center for sure, or thinking about things that don't even pertain to me. I told you I was worried about you in the middle of the night, like wondering what's going to happen if your apartment, if your furniture doesn't show up, and you're like, you didn't even think about it. You're sleeping. So, so okay. So splenic authority in a projector. If you are a projector, as Haley is, and you have splenic authority, it is probably the nobody likes to say this, but I'll just say it. It's probably one of the easiest authorities to have as a projector because it does give you that authority that is in the body, right? So that
Mhm.
even if you, like you have the head and ajna defined, you're still going to have this just overall um, sense about things that's going to help you make decisions. So, in order to have that splenic definition as a projector, you're gonna, like, you are either connected to the root or connected up to the throat or to the G center, possibly even over to the will center. So
Okay.
if you look at how the spleen sits, the channels that go through it, there's these three
Mhm.
main channels that go from the root through the spleen, and then two go up to the throat and the other one goes over to the let me it's like you can see things in your mind and then you start talking and you're like, am I saying that right? Yeah, that's right. Two of them go up to the throat, and then the other one, well, let's say the 57 goes to the throat, but it also goes to the G center. And then there's the one that connects to the sacral, which of course you're not going to have that defined through the one to the sacral because then you'd have sacral authority. But what's
Yeah.
interesting is if you, like you have the 1858,
Mhm.
that circuitry there is logical circuitry. Okay.
Mhm.
Starts up in the head center in gate 63 and then, comes down through the middle part of the body graph, but also on the outside there. And so what's interesting there is if you're in that circuitry and you have the splenic authority, it's how your spleen response is going to kind of express itself is going to be through that circuitry. So that means
Mhm.
the logical circuitry there is very forward facing. It's looking towards the future. It's trying, that's why I was asking about making sense of things. It's trying to answer and correct things and make them better, because that whole channel, especially yours, the channel of judgment, is all about what makes sense and what needs to be corrected When I say makes sense, I think what I mean is it is you instinctually know what it is that needs to happen to be improved or to make things better, or how you can
Mm-hmm.
do things better, make things better for everybody. It's not just for yourself, and it's for others. Definitely, you're always trying to impart that, but you're still a projector, so you might want to keep it to yourself till somebody asks you. Just sidebar there. So day to day
Still
for
working on that
projecting.
one.
Now, as a projector, all projectors are going to probably need to sound things out with people because they are more focused on the other than themselves. They still are going to have to talk things out with people, generally, have your trusted people around you. But if you have splenic authority, you have that little extra leg up that helps you make good decisions for yourself in conjunction with your authority or your strategy as a projector.
Mhm.
So, which is your strategy is
We wait for the invitation.
right. That's right. So for big things in life, bigger things that would come to you as that invitation, your spleen will really help you kind of make those decisions a little bit easier. But it kind of has to, like I said, if it's only talking to you in the moment, that means it can change as well. And so I think a lot of people worry that if, like, oh, I wasn't paying attention to it, I don't know, and I missed it, and now I'm going to make a rest, all these decisions are going to be bad. It's like, no, I think you're still, as long as you're following your strategy, um, for your type, you can rest assured that it will speak to you again. But that also with splenic authority means that you get to change your mind. You get to make your decisions because they can change from, you might have the intention to, at the beginning of the day, say, I'm going to go out to dinner with my friends, and that feels really good. And I want to do that. But throughout your day or whatever, you might get to right when you're walking out the door, you're like, yeah, I don't want to do it. And that's okay. It's like, that means
I've
that,
been there.
yeah, this is not a good use of your energy. You don't have to worry about it. And it's in that regards, it's you could try to mental your way through it and reason your way through it, but it's not. You remember, everybody, your mind's not for actual making decisions. It won't make the right decision for you. It
Mhm.
cannot be trusted. All of our authorities are actually rooted in our bodies, or in being able to um you know speak about it, see how we feel about it, but not in the ashna or the head. There is no authority up there. Okay. Oh, the other thing I want to say about that is that since it is a rather quiet voice, it can sometimes be overlooked, and it's important to learn how to recognize it. I also want to say, sorry, because I got ahead of myself. We were talking about your logical circuitry there. So that is
Mhm.
logic based. It's going to be about, maybe more about seeing patterns, things that make sense, that kind of thing, as a way of guiding you. If you have the other channel, like 2838, that is going into individual circuitry. So that is really,
Mhm.
for a lot of people, experienced as there's no logic there. It's just pure knowingness. It's just, and it's about really knowing, because 2838 is about knowing what's worth it in life, your survival, your progression. It's like all these urges in that channeling
Mhm.
in that channel. And then the 3254, that, well, gate 32, I should say, that's tribal circuitry. So it's really going to be more concerned with things that have to do with food, money, resources, taking care of the tribe. So it's a
Mhm.
little probably deeper level than I needed to get into. I'm probably confusing the matter, but I just find it interesting. So let's get back to staying friends with your splenic authority and paying
Let's do
attention
it.
to it. Yeah, paying attention to it. So how do you do that? So if you have splenic authority, and you see, I'm doing it again. I don't have any notes. I'm going straight from my head. because we haven't talked about the manifester yet. But
Nope.
what do you think I should do? Should I keep going what I was saying, or should I hop on over to the manifester real quick so they don't feel left out?
Maybe.
You're like, but I'm not a manifester. Let's keep talking about.
Yeah, I guess we
It's very
probably should.
it's very similar in the sense that the manifester also does not have the defined sacral or solar plexus, but they do have to have a motor connected to the throat to make them a manifester, right?
Right.
So if they
Mm-hmm.
are a splenic manifester, this is where there's a little controversy is
Controversy.
what is really a splenic manifester. So in my book,
Oh.
a splenic manifester is going to be a manifester that has definition from the root, which is a motor, through the spleen up to the throat.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is also a type of splenic manifester that it might show up on a report that has, you have the will center, heart will center connected to the spleen through that, because that's the only place it can connect is through that 4426. And say that's the only motor the manifester has, is then the will center connected to the throat. So the reason I say it's controversial is because they will say that a manifester or even a projector with that will center defined, because it is a motor, that there's still a splenic authority. Okay. And technically,
Mm-hmm.
yes, they are splenic authority because that's an awareness center. But if the will center is defined and the spleen center is defined,
Mm-hmm.
what you have there is, yes, you have the awareness of like, this is something you want to do, this is something not to do, this is your well-being, whatever. But that will center is a motor that operates like the gas tank, right? It has to be filled up in order to, have any energy to go, right? And then
Right.
it will deplete itself, and then it has to be filled back up, right? Which requires rest. And the way I have been taught is that if you are depleted in that will center, you don't have the energy, you that is really going to affect the splenic awareness, because it might not, you might get certain hits, but you're not going to get these urges or these hits or these things or to do anything because the will center is depleted. It's almost like, the projector who has a defined will center, this is where they might feel more often that the invitations aren't there and they can get more bitter. They might be burnt out because they're not realizing that that gas tank's empty. And so things aren't coming their way. So I feel that if you have splenic authority, but you also have that will center defined, that will center is going to play a huge part in how your splenic authority operates. You've got to make sure that you are listening to those body cues also of like, I just don't have the energy for it, and not try to push through. It's these are some very like elusive and kind of, if they're not definite finite things that you can like put your finger on. These are feelings and awarenesses. But I just wanted to point that out, that does play a part in splenic authority. And I really think if the will center is defined, even though you have splenic authority, really, I think that will center has a lot more to say than the system gives it credit for.
I mean, it is the will center.
Yeah, or the heart or the ego, whatever you want to call it. But, it's money, resources, taking care of the tribe, taking care, make sure everybody's, fed and everything. So it's kind of important. So everything I said about the spleen before, about the connection points and everything, they're going to be the same if the manifester has that defined route going through the spleen to the throat. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So going back to the point about, okay, you've got to learn to really be in touch with how the spleen speaks to you, right? And the best way to do that is to pay attention. The best way to do that is through really, if you haven't already, cultivating more of a mindfulness practice or meditation practice, because what that does is it stills the mind, takes you out of the mind more into the body, and really tunes you into more subtle body awareness. Also, since it's that lymph system moving the body on the regular basis, trying to keep things nice and healthy, keep the lymph system healthy, they all kind of work hand in hand because it's your immune system. It's your and the spleen is always looking out for your well-being and your survival,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what it's there to do. So if you can, it's kind of like if you keep ignoring it, it's not going to be a loud voice anymore. It's just going to kind of be like, okay, you're not listening to me. I'm just going to go away
I
now.
told you, but I guess you don't want to
Doesn't
hear what I have to say.
doesn't matter. So I'll just go away and hopefully she'll figure it out. Like if you have a friend you never talk to, they're going to eventually give up talking to you. And you'll be like, oh, maybe I should reach out and get in touch and pay attention again. So, okay, just real quick. So if you have that defined spleen and you have the other uh, authorities as well,
Mm-hmm.
remember there is going to be a hierarchy: emotional first, sacral, then probably that will center, or then the spleen. So it's learning to listen to a lot of them. It's a lot of body awareness. If you're not emotional but you have sacral authority and a spleen, they're going to work hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to quite often feel a lot the same. It's just that, like I said, the sacral is going to be more like, ugh, in your gut, you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you have a defined spleen, I'm starting to pay attention more, that I'm actually a lot more tuned in and intuitive than I ever realized, in the sense that a lot of things you would just chalk up to like, oh, it's just a coincidence, or, well, of course that happened. I have logical circuitry going through there
Mm-hmm.
as well, of like, well, that makes sense. Well, sure, there's nothing special about that. But
Mm-hmm.
when I've been paying attention more from getting this awareness, it's like I can see definitely how it operates, that it is kind of just it's so hard to
It's like
put your
it's
finger on.
just kind of there, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
not. It's kind of like a shadow. Like it's there, but it's
A good
not.
shadow.
Yeah, but it's just
Yeah,
kind of like
just got a
it's
little.
there, but it's not. You can't like really feel it or touch
Well,
it or.
because it's all over.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this whole other, like, just move, almost like moving you in certain situations. Some people might actually hear more, depending on the gates.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they might feel like there's a little more
Because
auditory
didn't
sense
we?
there.
I was gonna say we talked about the one or two of the gates in the spleen were
Mm-hmm.
tied to some of the
Ear to
senses.
hearing, clairaudience. Yeah, we did the whole thing about the intuition. That was another one that we
Yes.
did about the spleen, the one about the intuitive gates. So that's a good one to listen to too, of how the spleen can,
Mm-hmm.
give you those signals. But it's really good if you are defined there to really start paying attention, to keep a journal, all those little things that you just kind of noticed working out or whatever. Like I said, to you was, how did it feel? I'm really glad to hear that you've not regretted a lot of your decisions. But again, that segue, like I said, everything you just, if you're following your instincts or what you think is right, because it's not that you're just blindly following someone else. You're like, oh, I didn't have a problem with it. You and your
Mm-hmm.
husband moved out there. Because I've seen you when things don't feel right for you, that you will dig in and be like, no, I don't want to do that. Or no, I don't think that's a good idea. And you won't let up on it.
Riding dirt bikes.
Yeah, and a lot of times, and I've seen Presley like, well, how do you know that? And you'd be like, I just know. I don't have anything to back it up with. I just know that this is what I
Mainly
should.
with food. He's like, how do you know you don't like it? I'm like, I know. He's like, have you ever tried it? I was like, no, but I know I won't like it.
I'm glad you said food, because that is a way to also start tuning into your splenic awareness and authority more, is starting with food, of what your body is drawing you to or repelling you from. It's like, I don't know how many times I've been like, thinking about, oh, well, what do you want for lunch? And then something random might pop in. And I'll be like, I don't really want, it's not that I don't want it or it doesn't make sense or that's too far away. I shouldn't go do that. But I'll try to think of other things to eat instead. And everything's just like, no, no, no. And it's not like a craving, it's just like,
It's a
this is where
it's
you
a
should go
feeling.
today. Yeah, this is where you should go today. Because that happened to me yesterday.
I had it today for lunch.
Did you?
I was like, because I knew I didn't want anything that we have here, which is like I could make a sandwich, but I don't like the bread. We tried a different
Hmm.
bread. I don't like it. It's sweet. I don't like it. And then
Hmm.
we had like leftover chicken chili, which the chicken chili was good, but I just don't really want it. So
Hmm.
I was like, what do I want? And I was just kind of thinking of it, and like Taco Bell popped in my head. I was like, okay, yeah, I like Taco Bell. And then the curry from that Thai place popped in my head. I was like, that was good too. And then I asked Presley, I was like, do you want Taco Bell or Thai? He's like, I could go either way. And then I was like, I'm feeling Taco Bell.
Just feels like, even though it's maybe not the healthier choice.
But
Your spleen said that's what you wanted today.
it was what I was drawn to more than the Thai, even though I like both and they were both good.
Hmm. Well, it's like yesterday, so I had a whole day off. I was home all day yesterday, and which doesn't happen as much anymore. And it got to be lunchtime. Your dad was here, and I was like, God, I hate it when he's here when I'm I got this hit early on in the day. I was like, I want to go try Bangkok House, the Thai place I used to go to all the time that got sold. And I haven't been there since. And I don't know if they do anything, but it was just literally just it would not leave me alone. I'd keep
Mm-hmm.
trying to find something else to do, something that made more sense, because it's like on the other end of town,
Yeah.
just all these things. It's like, no, you should stay here. You should stay focused on this. You should, he's going to say this about you, about spending money on going all the way down there for food. I mean, all the arguments. And then finally I was like, no. And so I just finally went and it was very nice. So did I send you the
You sent me
video?
the snap of it. It's very dark.
No, it's beautiful in there now. I
But
mean, this is,
all the walls were black and the
I
ceiling
know,
was
but it looked
black.
really good, black and
It
gold. It
looks
was so,
nice. It was
yeah. And I had the pad thai and it was the same pad thai they used to have. I don't know if anything else was the same, but it was very gratifying and it felt very good and it made me feel very happy to be there. And I guess that's what my spleen wanted me to do in that moment was like,
it's like you need a little dose of happiness here.
I need you. Well, yeah, because I was like, well, go do something that is good, feels good for you,
Hmm.
and it was lovely. So, anyways, yeah, making food choices is a good one.
But even
Especially when,
like another thing, like the whole decision for us to move out here, Presley was the one, he brought it to me. And thinking like I can think about when he first brought it to me and like initially I was like oh no, like I lost my breath because I was like, it's so far away. And at the time when he first brought it up, we were like a few months away from the wedding as well. So I was like, no, it's too much. But then like we kept talking about it and going through it and like it just started to feel good the more we talked about it. And it's
Mhm.
really funny because when I first proposed the timeline, I was like, well, not until March. Like March is my earliest because like other than that, it'd be too soon. And then Presley was the one that wanted to move it up to February. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then it was also Presley who then wanted to move it back to March because
Mhm.
when it got closer to February, he's like, no, this is too early. And I was like,
Mhm. I knew that.
I told that.
I knew that. I was aware. It made sense. I mean March made sense. February did not.
Mhm.
I agree. Yeah. And that's good because you keep checking in, with that. How does it feel to me? Does it still feel good?
Mhm.
And that's a good thing. And he's sacral generator,
Mhm.
so he same thing. He has that little more like gut awareness of, what feels good. But with all these authorities, we've all as human beings spent a lot of time, especially in the last couple hundred years, overriding those natural instincts that we have. When we moved into that mental awareness back in the 1700s, scientific revolution and everything,
Mhm.
everybody wanted to go with logic and thinking. So it's not surprising that we tend to override how our bodies feel. And I think we are moving back into that because, well, the solar plexus is about emotion and feeling. That's going to be the dominant awareness center here as we move forward. But it is all about, and this is everything that human design is here to teach us, is to trust ourselves through how it is we are feeling and what our bodies are telling us, because that is our main source of intelligence. Because if you think about it, I mean, what are we even? We're like consciousness in these shells, if you start thinking, well, of course the whole instrument should be used and not just the little
Not just the little 7-pound
sensor.
brain, the whole rest of the large body.
Yeah, right. It's like all the rest was just dragging it around.
It's just flopping around.
Of course we're supposed to use the whole vehicle, right? And so I think splenic awareness is one that definitely is very, very valuable, if not elusive, and hard to always suss out. But it's really like trusting yourself. If that is your authority and you have it defined, you need to trust those feelings that you have and don't let other people derail you or your mind derail you. So that's in a nutshell, splenic authority. I'm trying to think if I thought of anything I left out. I feel like I just, again, meandered all over the place.
No. That one was really good.
But hopefully it has some help for people out there. And, again, if you have other things that you would like us to talk about on the podcast, things you'd like us, to try and answer or have a conversation around, we would love to hear from you. You can either email me at dana@humandesignhive.com, or you can find me on Instagram at humandesignhive. DM me there. Those are probably the two preferred ways of doing things. And some of you have, and I really love it. I love talking to you guys. And let's see. I feel like we abruptly came to the end, but it's time to wrap this up.
No, that's good. That's good.
I know, probably because I just want to stay on talking to you. Because you're there now and I'm here. South Carolina. What I say? I got back here, moldy, moist, damp South Carolina. The air felt good out there in Colorado. Okay, so I was doing really good wrapping it up, so let's stop. All right, Haley, you still have 2 hours. You still have a couple hours till your sunset. So as it sets over those mountains, think of me. Have a good evening. I'm gonna. It's 6:30 now. It's gonna start. I gotta start thinking about dinner. But
I mean, I do too, because everything is shifted being on East.
Oh yeah,
we're still working on East Coast time. So like we get up at 5:30 in the morning and then eat lunch at like 11 and then dinner's at like 5.
Oh my God, you are
We're
like
early
early
birds.
retired.
Yeah.
You guys can start hitting the early bird specials around town.
We went to dinner Wednesday night at like 6 o'clock.
Oh my Lord. 80s in your 20s.
Hey, but we have a lot of daylight that we still work with.
Hey, I appreciate it because, I don't have to record at like 7:30 at night because that would not work for me.
No.
I would be probably still making dinner. Okay, well, being said, let's make sure we wrap it up. I hope everybody out there has a good rest of your day, evening, wherever you are in the world. And same for you, Haley. So catch you in the next episode. Bye, Haley.
Bye.
You made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share the Human Design Hive podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.